Hey everybody, I hope your week got off to a great start. I'm here in downtown Brooklyn, right near Cadman Plaza West, just outside of the federal courthouse here. And we're going to talk about what's going on there in just a moment. But first, I wanted to talk with you about some major headlines and some major developments happening today, especially in this ongoing pandemic that we are definitely not completely done with yet, unfortunately. First of all, the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, they gave official approval to the Pfizer vaccine. Pfizer put in an application last May for this official approval. Now, if you're wondering, well, how could they have given out the vaccines before this official approval? The answer is both the Pfizer, all three of them actually, the Pfizer, Moderna, and the Johnson & Johnson vaccines were all able to be given out because of an emergency use authorization, what they call an EUA. So that's not the same thing as full FDA approval. It's an emergency measure because of the emergency situation we were in as the pandemic was getting underway and as it was ramping up. So Pfizer is the first one of the vaccines to get this official FDA approval. Now what that means, it means that now many employers will be mandating that their employees get the vaccine. And in fact, today, Mayor de Blasio said that all New York City school workers, and not just teachers, not just teachers' aides, but every single person who works in a New York City public school must get vaccinated, period. There's no opt-out with weekly testing. There's no exceptions. You must get vaccinated if you want to work in a New York City public school. Now in New Jersey, Governor Murphy issued a ruling for the school system there in the state of New Jersey that you either have to be vaccinated or you have to submit to weekly COVID testing. Now, in terms of the other vaccines, you might be asking, okay, this was Pfizer. What about Moderna? What about the Johnson & Johnson if you got the single shot? Those are still being used and being distributed because of the emergency use authorization. Moderna, I had 2 of the Moderna shots. Moderna put in their application about a month after the Pfizer application for this full FDA approval, and that is expected because they're very similar types of vaccines, or these messenger, what are called the messenger vaccines. So that is expected to be coming along. But the bottom line is you're going to need to show proof of vaccination to go just about anywhere, to work just about anywhere, and to do just about anything by the middle to end of September. That's the reality. Now, a lot of people were saying before, I'm not taking the vaccine. It hasn't gotten the official FDA approval. Well, now that argument is out the window. Even President Biden said it today. He said, go out and get your shot right away. Now, what does the FDA approval mean? Does it mean that a bunch of people sit around in an office or a conference table and go, okay, this is approved, this is approved, this is approved? No, they have to submit, the drug companies, the pharmaceutical companies have to submit a lot of research. They have to submit a lot of clinical research, meaning who took it, how are they doing 6 months later. Pfizer submitted evidence on 200 million doses given to people 16 years of age or older over a 6-month period, and it was deemed safe. So that's how they got that approval. Moderna is expected to get it, and Johnson & Johnson is expected to get it in the coming weeks as well. So that's the reality. Whether you like it or not, that is the reality. So in other news, this was Governor Cuomo's official last day. He is not going to be governor as of midnight tonight, Monday night, going into Tuesday morning. Kathy Hochul, the lieutenant governor, will be sworn in as the New York State's first female governor tomorrow on Tuesday at an official ceremony. Governor Cuomo did give an outgoing speech. He said that the investigation by the State Attorney General, Letitia James, set off a media frenzy. He's kind of blaming the media frenzy for everything that happened after that. He said that every day he wanted people to know that every single day he gave his best to the state of New York. Okay, so that's what's happening on that level. Now let's talk about what's happening here in federal court in downtown Brooklyn. I was in the courthouse once again for the R. Kelly trial. It's day 4. There was a young woman in her early 20s who was on the stand today. Since she is considered a sex crime victim by the prosecutors, we'll use her name, which is the alias that she used in court, which is Jane. Jane claims that at the age of 17, she began a sexual relationship with R. Kelly. She told him, she testified, that she told him she was 18. Now, she had to come clean about her real age as school was about to start for her senior year in Florida, where she was living at the time with her mother. She told him that she was really 17. because she wanted to finish her senior year of high school. So what does R. Kelly do? Allegedly, prosecutors say, and she says that R. Kelly got a lawyer to draw up a consent form for Jane's mother in Florida, where Jane would give custody of her, because she's still legally a minor, to a female business associate of R. Kelly in Chicago, so that she could go back to Chicago with R. Kelly and complete her senior year via homeschooling, remote learning, whatever you want to call it, through the high school system in her home county, which is in the 407 area code in the state of Florida. So that was pretty interesting, because one of the questions I had was, she's 17 years old. How is she going from Chicago to Atlanta to California, traveling with him for weeks and weeks and weeks on end at this time? And where are the parents? Where's her guardian? Isn't anybody looking for her? So apparently her mother just signed over this legal document to give permission to this woman, who was a colleague, I should say, of R. Kelly, to basically, be over her, be looking over her, be her guardian. So that's what happened there. Now, she also testified on the stand some things that we had heard before. She said that he gave her an STD, vaginal herpes, and that it was extremely painful, and it got so painful at one point that she could barely even move, eventually going to a doctor, having that diagnosed and being treated for that. She also says that he had a list of rules, very specific rules, that if she broke the rules, that that there would be punishments. These would include violent spankings that left bruises and even broke her skin in certain places. And she also testified that she traveled with him a lot of places, and she did this even after she became aware of other women that he was in relationships with, who were living in that house in Atlanta, Georgia, the big house, as she called it, and then the, ironically a nickname for a prison, but she called it the big house, his mansion in Atlanta, and then also the guest house where a lot of the women that he was in relationships with were staying. Now, R. Kelly's defense team is going to have a chance to cross-examine her, and R. Kelly's defense team has maintained, R. Kelly has maintained from the very beginning with all these allegations that he's innocent. He said this has been consensual sex with women, that's what it is. Of course, the underage issue, and now that this is federal, that is a whole different ballgame. So it's federal because of these racketeering charges, because of state lines being crossed, and that sort of thing. She also testified that he carried an iPad around with him in like a book bag, or a bag, and he videotaped many of their sexual encounters. So if that's true, and they had as much sex as she says that they had, as often as they had it, there must be a lot of videotape, a lot of video out there of this. So we'll see what continues to come out in the trial. Remember, R. Kelly's defense is going to cross-examine her. They're going to present their case, and we'll see what happens. I'm going to go by the by the belief that I believe in firmly in the American justice system, that you're innocent until proven guilty. But boy, does he have a lot of problems. He still has a state case in Illinois, and he also has another federal case in Illinois for child pornography. So there's going to be more coming out here. We'll hear hopefully all sides of this story. I'll keep reporting it to you, but that's what happened here at federal court in Brooklyn in the R. Kelly case today. Please stay safe. I took my mask off because you can see I'm outdoors and nobody's around me. I started wearing my mask again, even when I'm outdoors and there's people around, just for safety. I also want to say we interviewed a doctor, Dr. James Schneider. He's with the Cohen Children's Medical Center. He's the head of critical care. He's a first responder and a frontline worker in throughout a lot of the pandemic. And he said a couple of things which you'll see on Street Soldiers this Friday night. But he said even if you are doubly vaccinated, like I am, like many of you are, you should still be wearing a mask at all times, because there's a lot about this Delta variant they don't know. And he said a virus like this, he said the virus's job is to continue to mutate so that it continue to spread. And I asked him, I go, how do we just stop this? Because a lot of people thought by this time, by this point, September 2021, all of this would be behind us. And he said the only way to get it behind us is to get the vast majority, nearly all of Americans vaccinated, and have people right now, while we're in this kind of weird phase where you don't know who's vaccinated, you don't know who is, to wear a mask, because he said if your repeated exposure to it can make you even more vulnerable, and then it can just take one exposure to somebody to the Delta variant to get very, very sick. And one of the things about the Delta variant, the reason we had him on, because he deals with children, one of the things that's so troubling about it is the kids. Children under 12 right now cannot get vaccinated because it hasn't been studied enough, it hasn't been considered safe enough for them at that age. And they're working on changing that, but until they do, he said they're especially vulnerable to the Delta variant. And even if you're vaccinated, you can carry it, you can transmit it. And if you're saying to me, well, Lisa, then why should I even bother getting the vaccination? A, you're gonna need it to do anything. And B, vaccinated, even if you get it, you're not gonna get as sick, so you'll end up on a respirator or in an emergency room. He said they're seeing some cases where children are getting very sick very fast. So if you have small children or you take care of small children, if they have any of these symptoms, such as the gastrointestinal, meaning stomach aches, severe stomach aches, meaning diarrhea, meaning vomiting, a high fever, and in some cases a sore throat, definitely breathing difficulty, you need to get them at least tested right away and get them to an urgent care or get them to an ER, because this thing can have an effect on kids very, very quickly. So please keep that in mind if you're a parent or guardian of small children and children under the age of 12, okay? Let's stay safe, let's stay happy, let's stay positive, because it's just the beginning of the week. And I wish you guys a really amazing week, okay? We've got a new Street Soldiers for you Friday night, got a lot of other great things popping, so stay tuned.